The emergency room doors exploded open at Mercy Ridge Hospital in Phoenix, and chaos poured through like a flood. A bloodied special operations soldier convulsed on the gurney while tactical officers screamed coordinates into radios. Alarm shrieked. Doctors sprinted. The overhead lights painted everything in harsh white panic. And in the middle of it all, a blonde nurse in wrinkled scrubs quietly said, "If you sedate him now, his heart will stop." Nobody heard her. 29-year-old Lily Marsh didn't look like someone who'd survived war zones. She looked like someone who got coffee orders wrong. Pale blue eyes, soft voice, hair tied back in a messy ponytail after 16 hours on shift. But when the cardiac monitor flatlined exactly 30 seconds later, just like she'd warned, everything changed. Before we go any further, if you want to see how this story ends, hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to know how far these stories travel. Now, let's get back to the moment everything fell apart. The trauma bay smelled like disinfectant and adrenaline. Lily stood against the back wall, hands clasped in front of her, watching the chaos unfold with the kind of stillness that made people forget she was there. The soldier on the table couldn't have been older than 25. His tactical vest had been cut away, revealing a chest covered in bruises that spread like storm clouds under his skin. Blood leaked from his nose. His breathing came in sharp, uneven gasps that sounded wrong to anyone who'd heard that sound before. Lily had heard it before. Many times. Dr. Marcus Reinhardt stood at the head of the bed, barking orders with the confidence of someone who'd never been told he was wrong. Tall, mid-40s, silver hair swept back like he'd just stepped out of a medical drama. He had the kind of face that appeared on hospital brochures. "Get me propofol, now. We need to intubate before his airway closes." Two nurses scrambled to comply. Equipment clattered. Someone knocked over a tray of instruments. Lily's eyes tracked the rise and fall of the soldier's chest. Right side lagging, pressure building, the kind of asymmetry that most people wouldn't notice until it was too late. She stepped forward, voice barely above a conversational tone. "Dr. Reinhardt, you should check for tension pneumothorax before sedation." He didn't even look at her. "I've got this, nurse. Prepare the intubation kit." "His right lung isn't expanding properly. If you sedate him before decompression..." "I said I've got this." The words came out clipped, dismissive. The same tone he'd used on her for the past 8 months. The same tone every doctor at Mercy Ridge used when they remembered she existed at all. Lily stepped back, not because she believed he was right, but because she'd learned that some people needed to fail before they'd listen. A tactical officer leaned against the doorframe, radio still crackling against his shoulder. His eyes were locked on the soldier, his teammate probably, his brother in arms. The kind of bond civilians didn't understand because they'd never had to trust someone else with their life in the space between one breath and the next. "Is he going to make it?" The officer's voice cracked at the edges. Dr. Reinhardt didn't look up. "We're doing everything we can." It was the kind of non-answer that doctors gave when they wanted to sound confident without making promises. Lily watched the monitor. Heart rate climbing, oxygen saturation dropping. The numbers told a story if you knew how to read it. Another nurse, Sandra, mid-50s, permanently exhausted, handed Dr. Reinhardt the syringe of propofol. She caught Lily's eye for half a second, and something passed between them. Not quite understanding, but recognition, the acknowledgement that this wasn't going to end well. "Administering sedation now." Lily opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Doctor, please, Ish. Nurse Marsh." Dr. Reinhardt's voice cut through the room like a scalpel. "If you question my judgment one more time, you can wait outside." The other nurses went still. Nobody made eye contact with Lily. She'd been here before. Different hospital, different country, different war, but the same choice. Stay quiet and watch someone die, or speak up and get removed from the room. She stayed quiet. Dr. Reinhardt pushed the plunger. The sedation flowed into the soldier's IV line like poison wrapped in good intentions. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then the cardiac monitor screamed. The rhythm went erratic, sharp spikes followed by valleys that dropped too far, too fast. The soldier's body went rigid. His chest stopped moving altogether. "He's crashing," Sandra's voice pitched high. Dr. Reinhardt's confidence evaporated. "Get me epi-start compressions." "No, wait, bag him first." The room descended into controlled chaos. Nurses moved with practiced efficiency, but there was fear underneath it, the kind that came from knowing something had gone very wrong and nobody knew how to fix it. The tactical officer shoved forward. "What the hell is happening?" "Sir, you need to step back. That's my teammate." His hand moved toward his sidearm, not threatening, just reflexive. The gesture of someone whose training said weapons solved problems. Two security guards appeared in the doorway. Hospital protocol. Armed personnel got escorted out during medical emergencies. But the officer didn't move. His eyes found Lily, standing motionless against the wall. "You." His voice dropped low. "You said something before." "What did you say?" Every head in the room turned toward her. Lily met his gaze. "I said if you sedate him without releasing the pressure in his chest, you'll stop his heart. Can you fix it?" "I'm just a nurse." "Bullshit." The officer stepped closer. "I've seen enough field medics to know when someone actually knows what they're doing. Can you fix it?" Dr. Reinhardt looked up from the code, face red. "Security, remove this man from—" "Can you fix it?" the officer repeated, ignoring the doctor entirely. Lily looked at the monitor, looked at the soldier dying on the table, looked at Dr. Reinhardt, who was doing everything right according to the textbook and everything wrong according to reality. She stepped forward. "Move." Dr. Reinhardt blinked. "Excuse me?" "Move. Now." Something in her voice changed. The soft-spoken nurse disappeared and what replaced her was older, harder, the kind of authority that didn't ask permission. "Nurse Marsh, you are—" Lily shoved past him, hands already moving. She grabbed a chest decompression needle from the crash cart, checked the gauge, didn't hesitate. "What are you doing?" Dr. Reinhardt's voice climbed toward panic. Lily ignored him. She placed 2 fingers on the soldier's chest, counting ribs, feeling for the intercostal space. Second rib, mid-clavicular line. The same position she'd found in field conditions with mortars shaking the ground. She drove the needle in. There was half a second of resistance, then a violent hiss as trapped air exploded outward, and the tension that had been crushing the soldier's lung released all at once. The cardiac monitor stuttered, spiked, found rhythm. The soldier gasped, a wet, horrible sound, but it was breath. The room went silent except for the steady beep of the monitor and the ragged sound of the soldier pulling air into lungs that finally had room to expand. Lily withdrew the needle, set it aside, stepped back. Dr. Reinhardt stared at her. "How did you—" His lung was collapsed. "You were treating respiratory failure when you should have been treating trauma." Her voice came out flat, clinical. The chest x-ray would have shown it if anyone had ordered one before jumping to intubation. Sandra slowly lowered the ambu bag. "Jesus Christ." The tactical officer moved to the bedside, hand hovering over his teammate's shoulder like he was afraid to make contact. "Is he stable?" "For now," Lily said. "He needs a chest tube and a CT scan, probably internal bleeding, but he'll live long enough to get to surgery." The officer turned to her, really looked at her for the first time. His eyes narrowed. "Where did you serve?" The question hit like a physical blow. Lily's expression didn't change. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." He gestured at the decompression needle, at the soldier, at the way she'd moved. "That wasn't civilian training. That was combat medicine. Where did you serve?" "I think you should focus on your teammate." "I'm serious. That hand placement. The way you didn't hesitate. I've worked with enough forward surgical units to recognize—" He stopped. His face changed. "Wait, Marsh. Lily Marsh." She said nothing. "Holy shit! You're Shadowhawk Actual." Every nurse in the room turned toward them. Dr. Reinhardt looked between the officer and Lily like he was watching a conversation in a language he didn't speak. "I don't—" Lily started. "Kandahar, 2019. You ran trauma operations for the 75th Ranger Regiment." The officer's voice dropped to something close to reverence. "You performed a thoracotomy in an active firefight and saved 3 operators who would have bled out before they reached the FOB." Lily's jaw tightened. "That wasn't me." "The hell it wasn't. I was there. I saw the after-action reports." He straightened slightly, and his hand came up in something that wasn't quite a salute, but carried the same weight. "Ma'am, It's an honor. Dr. Reinhardt found his voice. This is absurd. Nurse Marsh has worked here for 8 months. Her file says she completed civilian nursing school in... Her file is incomplete, the officer interrupted, because half of what she did is still classified. The words hung in the air like smoke. Lily turned and walked toward the door. Nurse Marsh, Dr. Reinhardt's voice followed her. We are not done here. You violated protocol. You physically displaced a senior physician during a code. You performed an invasive procedure without authorization. When administration hears about this, administration already knows, a new voice cut in. A woman stood in the doorway. Late 50s, gray suit, hospital ID clipped to her lapel. Patricia Morrison, VP of Nursing Operations. The kind of administrator who showed up when legal was about to get involved. Behind her stood 2 more figures in suits, and behind them, 3 men in military uniforms. Patricia stepped into the trauma bay like she was entering a crime scene. Dr. Reinhardt, we need you to come with us immediately. Nurse Marsh, you too. What's going on? Dr. Reinhardt looked between Patricia and the uniforms. One of the military officers stepped forward. He wore the rank of colonel and carried himself like someone who'd spent more time in war zones than hospitals. His eyes found Lily. Major Marsh, he said quietly. The title hit the room like a grenade. Major, not nurse. Major. Lily closed her eyes briefly. The tactical officer who'd recognized her straightened to attention. Colonel Preston, sir, this woman just saved Sergeant Davis's life after the hospital's attending physician nearly killed him through negligence. Colonel Preston nodded slowly. I'm aware. We've been reviewing the security footage. He turned to Dr. Reinhardt, which is why we need to speak with you immediately about your conduct during this emergency. Dr. Reinhardt's face went from red to white. I followed standard protocol. You ignored multiple warnings from a trauma specialist with more combat experience than your entire department combined. The colonel's voice stayed level. Polite. The kind of polite that preceded consequences. Major Marsh identified tension pneumothorax within 30 seconds of the patient's arrival. You dismissed her assessment 3 times. Your decision to proceed with sedation before decompression constitutes gross negligence. I didn't know she was... You didn't need to know her rank. You needed to listen when someone with superior knowledge tried to prevent you from killing a patient. Patricia Morrison stepped forward. Dr. Reinhardt, security footage shows you not only ignored clinical warnings, but threatened to have Nurse Marsh removed from the trauma bay for questioning your judgment. We also have testimony from 3 nurses that this is part of a pattern of behavior. We need you to come with us now. Dr. Reinhardt looked around the room, searching for support. The other nurses suddenly found the floor very interesting. This is ridiculous. I've been practicing emergency medicine for 15 years. Then you should have known better. Patricia's voice carried the weight of someone who'd already made her decision and was just waiting for everyone else to catch up. Come with us. Now. The colonel gestured toward the hallway. Dr. Reinhardt walked out with the posture of a man heading toward an execution. When they were gone, Colonel Preston turned back to Lily. Major Marsh, we need to debrief about the incident. I'm not active duty anymore, Colonel. No, but you're still under certain obligations regarding operational security. His expression softened slightly. And we need your statement about what happened here, for the soldiers' sake. Lily nodded. The colonel started toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, that was good work today. The kind that saves lives. He left. The trauma bay settled into an uncomfortable silence. The soldier, Sergeant Davis, breathed steadily now, color returning to his face. The monitors beeped their rhythms. Everything looked normal, except for the fact that nothing would be normal again. Sandra approached slowly. So, Major, huh? Lily pulled off her gloves, tossed them in the biohazard bin. That was a long time ago. Doesn't seem that long ago based on how you moved. Sandra's voice carried something that might have been respect or might have been fear. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because it doesn't matter. I'm a civilian nurse now. Clearly, it matters. Sandra gestured at the empty doorway where Dr. Reinhardt had disappeared. You just ended that man's career. No. He ended his own career when he let his ego override his judgment. Lily started for the door. Where are you going? To give my statement, then to finish my shift. You think they're going to let you just go back to work after this? Lily stopped in the doorway. I think people are going to treat me exactly the same as they did this morning, like I'm invisible, like I don't matter. And that's fine. I didn't come back to civilian medicine to be important. I came back because I was tired of people dying. She walked out. Behind her, Sandra stood in the trauma bay next to a soldier who was alive only because the nurse everyone ignored had known exactly what to do when the doctor everyone trusted had failed. 3 hours later, Lily sat in a conference room on the hospital's administrative floor. The room was designed to be intimidating: long table, leather chairs, abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than her annual salary. Across from her sat Patricia Morrison, the hospital's chief legal counsel, and Colonel Preston with 2 other military officers whose names she hadn't caught. They'd been asking questions for an hour, walking through the incident minute by minute, recording everything. Patricia set down her pen. Major Marsh, it's just Lily, or Nurse Marsh. I'm not active duty. Right, Lily. Patricia folded her hands on the table. I want you to understand that what happened today is extraordinarily serious. Dr. Reinhardt is one of our most senior emergency physicians. He has an excellent track record. Up until he nearly killed someone, Lily interrupted. Yes, which is why we're taking this very seriously. Patricia glanced at her legal counsel, who nodded. We've reviewed the security footage, we've spoken to every nurse who was present, and we've received a preliminary report from Colonel Preston's team about the patient's condition. And you were right, about everything. The tension pneumothorax, the contraindication for sedation, the need for immediate decompression. Dr. Reinhardt's decision to proceed against your warnings constitutes a serious breach of clinical judgment. Lily said nothing. However, Patricia's expression hardened. You also violated hospital protocol. You physically displaced an attending physician. You performed an invasive procedure without authorization. You created a hostile environment during a critical emergency. I saved a life. You did, and that's the only reason you're sitting here instead of being escorted out by security. Patricia pulled out a folder. Your personnel file is surprisingly thin. Nursing degree from a program in Colorado. References that check out but don't say much. No prior hospital experience listed before your hire date here 8 months ago. I was traveling, working contract positions. Were you? It wasn't a question. Colonel Preston leaned forward. Ms. Morrison, if I may, Major Marsh's service record is partially classified. What I can tell you is that she spent 4 years as a combat trauma nurse attached to special operations units in multiple theaters. She holds a Bronze Star and 2 Army Commendation Medals for valor under fire. Her medical expertise exceeds that of most civilian emergency physicians because she learned to practice medicine in conditions where mistakes meant immediate death. Patricia absorbed this. Why isn't any of that in her employment file? Because I didn't put it there, Lily said quietly. Why not? Because I wanted to start over. Because I didn't want to be defined by what I did in the military. Because I thought maybe I could just be a normal nurse in a normal hospital and help people without everyone treating me like I was special. Well, Patricia smiled thinly. That plan clearly didn't work out. Lily almost laughed. Almost. Patricia closed the folder. Dr. Reinhardt is being placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. We've also launched an internal review of our trauma protocols and command structure. Several other physicians will be interviewed about their interactions with nursing staff. You're investigating the whole department? We're investigating a culture that allowed a senior physician to ignore critical clinical input from a qualified professional simply because she held a lower title. Patricia's voice carried an edge. This hospital has a reputation for excellence. Today, that reputation was nearly destroyed because arrogance overruled expertise. One of the military officers spoke up. We'll be filing our own report about the incident. Sergeant Davis's family will be informed that his life was saved by exceptional trauma care from a former military medical officer. Lily's chest tightened. I'd prefer if my name wasn't... Too late, Colonel Preston said gently. The tactical team already knows who you are. Word is spreading. By tomorrow morning, every operator in the Southwest will know that Shadowhawk Actual is working at Mercy Ridge Hospital in Phoenix. I don't want that attention. I know, but you earned it. Patricia stood. You're not being disciplined for your actions today, Lily. But I need you to understand that things are going to change around here. The staff will know what happened. They'll know who you are. You won't be invisible anymore." I never wanted to be visible. I know, but sometimes the people who deserve recognition the most are the ones who want it the least. Patricia extended her hand. "Thank you for what you did today. You saved a life, and you potentially saved this hospital from a wrongful death lawsuit that would have destroyed us." Lily shook her hand, said nothing. The meeting ended. The military officers left first, Colonel Preston pausing at the door to give Lily a nod that carried the weight of shared experience. Patricia walked Lily to the elevator. "Take the rest of the day off. Go home. Process what happened. Come back tomorrow ready to face whatever comes next." The elevator doors opened. Lily stepped inside. "For what it's worth," Patricia added, "you did the right thing today, even if it was terrifying." The doors closed. Lily rode down in silence, watching the floor numbers descend. She felt hollowed out, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the 16-hour shift and everything to do with the weight of being seen after spending so long trying to disappear. The elevator opened onto the main floor. She walked through the lobby, past the gift shop and the coffee cart, and the families waiting for news about their loved ones. She pushed through the front doors into Phoenix sunlight that felt too bright, too warm, too alive. Her hands were shaking. She sat down on a bench outside the emergency entrance, closed her eyes, and tried to remember how to breathe without feeling like her chest was full of trapped air waiting to explode. Behind her, through the glass doors, Mercy Ridge Hospital continued its daily rhythm. Patients arrived. Doctors made rounds. Nurses charted medications and checked vitals and kept the whole machine running. And somewhere upstairs, in an administrative office, people were making decisions about her future without asking what she wanted. Lily opened her eyes. Across the parking lot, an ambulance pulled up to the emergency bay. Paramedics rushed out, wheeling a stretcher with practiced efficiency. The automatic doors swallowed them whole. Someone else's emergency, someone else's crisis. The work never stopped. She stood up, walked back inside. Because despite everything, despite the exposure, the attention, the way her carefully constructed anonymity had shattered in the space of a single decompression needle, she was still a nurse, and people still needed help. She walked back into the emergency department just as her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Meet me in the parking garage. Level 3. Preston Lily stared at the message. Colonel Preston had left the hospital an hour ago. She typed back, "Why?" The response came immediately. "Because there are things about today you don't know yet, and you need to know them before tomorrow." Lily's stomach dropped. She walked toward the parking garage, each step feeling heavier than the last, wondering what fresh disaster was waiting to explode in her face. The garage was dim and echoing. She took the stairs to level 3, footsteps loud in the concrete space. Colonel Preston stood beside a black SUV, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Beside him stood 3 other people, 2 in military uniforms, 1 in civilian clothes with a federal badge clipped to his belt. "Major Marsh," Preston's voice echoed. "Thank you for coming." "What's going on?" "Something you need to see." He nodded to one of the officers who opened the SUV's back door and pulled out a tablet. The screen showed security footage from the trauma bay, but not from today, from 3 days ago. The timestamp read 0247 hours. The emergency department in the dead hours of night shift. And there, on the screen, Dr. Marcus Reinhardt stood in the medication room, pulling vials from the locked cabinet. Vials he shouldn't have had access to. Vials that didn't appear in any patient charts. "We've been investigating Dr. Reinhardt for 6 weeks, the federal agent said. Suspected diversion of controlled substances. Today's incident gave us cause to execute a search warrant." Lily felt cold. And we found enough fentanyl and morphine in his locker to supply a street dealer for 3 months. The agent's expression was granite. "We also found evidence he's been altering patient records to cover the thefts." Preston stepped closer. "The reason I wanted you to know this now is because tomorrow morning, federal agents will be arresting Dr. Reinhardt. It's going to be a media circus, and your name is going to come up as the nurse who exposed his incompetence." "I didn't expose anything. I just tried to save a patient." "Doesn't matter. The narrative is already forming. War hero nurse stands up to corrupt doctor. Hospital administration tries to silence her. Truth comes out." That's not what happened. Isn't it? Preston's voice softened. You questioned his judgment. You were right, and now we've discovered he's been committing federal crimes while hiding behind his white coat and his reputation. Lily leaned against the concrete wall. Why are you telling me this? Because tomorrow is going to be chaos. Press, lawyers, hospital politics, and you need to decide right now how you want to handle it. Preston gestured at the tablet. You can stay quiet. Let the investigation play out. Hope people forget about you. Or you can stand up and tell your story. Let people know that you didn't just save one soldier today. You potentially saved dozens of patients who are being treated by an impaired physician who was stealing narcotics. I don't want to be a hero. Then don't be. Be a professional who did her job and refused to let ego and corruption kill someone. Preston's eyes held hers. The military taught you that silence protects the wrong people. You know what happens when good people stay quiet. Lily looked at the security footage playing on the tablet. Dr. Reinhardt, moving with the casual confidence of someone who'd done this dozens of times before. Someone who'd gotten away with it because nobody questioned him. Because he was a doctor. Because he wore authority like armor. She thought about the soldier on that table. About Sergeant Davis, who would have died if she'd stayed quiet. She thought about all the other patients who might have been harmed by someone whose judgment was impaired by addiction or arrogance, or both. What do you need from me? She asked finally. Preston smiled slightly. Just keep doing what you did today. Tell the truth. Don't back down. The federal agent handed her a business card. We'll need a formal statement for the criminal investigation, and you'll likely be called as a witness when this goes to trial. Lily took the card, looked at it, slipped it into her pocket. Am I free to go? Yes, ma'am. Preston stepped back. And Major Marsh, what you did today, that was the most important thing you've done since you left the service. You saved a life, maybe more than one. That matters. She walked back toward the stairwell. Behind her, the federal agent said something she couldn't quite hear, and Preston laughed quietly. Lily descended the stairs, emerging into the bright fluorescent hell of the hospital lobby. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. This time from Sandra. Everyone's talking about what happened. You okay? Lily typed back, Fine, see you tomorrow. She walked to her car, sat in the driver's seat, didn't start the engine. The steering wheel felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She'd come to Phoenix to disappear, to be anonymous, to practice medicine without the weight of combat and trauma and expectations pressing down on her shoulders. And in one afternoon, that anonymity had burned away like morning fog under a merciless sun. Tomorrow, everyone would know. Tomorrow, the news would break. Tomorrow, her carefully constructed normal life would detonate. Lily started the car, drove home through Phoenix traffic, sun setting orange and violent across the desert horizon. Tomorrow would come whether she was ready or not. And somewhere in this city, Sergeant Davis was alive and recovering because she'd refused to let someone die just to keep the peace. That had to count for something, even if it cost her everything she'd been trying to build since the day she walked away from the war. The sun hadn't fully risen when Lily's phone started ringing. She'd been awake for hours anyway, sitting at her kitchen table with cold coffee and the kind of exhaustion that came from not sleeping rather than from work. Her apartment was small, clean, anonymous, the kind of place someone rented when they didn't plan to stay long or put down roots. The caller ID showed a Phoenix area code she didn't recognize. She answered anyway. Nurse Marsh, this is Jennifer Torres from Channel 7 News. We're running a story about the incident at Mercy Ridge Hospital yesterday, and we'd love to get your statement about... Lily hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. She turned it off. Through her apartment window, Phoenix sprawled across the valley floor, already shimmering with heat even though it was barely 6 in the morning. Somewhere out there, Sergeant Davis was recovering. Dr. Reinhardt was probably lawyering up, and the machinery of consequence was grinding forward whether she wanted to be part of it or not. She showered, got dressed, made fresh coffee she wouldn't drink. By the time she left for her shift at 7, 3 news vans were parked outside her apartment complex. Lily walked past them with her head down, keys in hand. A reporter shouted questions she didn't acknowledge. A camera tracked her movement. She got in her car and drove away while they scrambled to follow. She lost them in morning traffic, taking side streets until she was sure nobody was behind her anymore. The hospital parking garage felt like a trap. She parked on the lowest level near the maintenance entrance that most staff didn't use. Walked through corridors that smelled like industrial cleaner and old concrete. She emerged on the main floor and immediately knew something was different. The lobby was packed, not with patients, with reporters, at least a dozen of them, cameras and microphones and press badges, all clustered near the information desk like vultures waiting for something to die. Lily turned toward the staff elevator, moved quickly. "That's her!" someone shouted. The mob surged forward. Questions flew like shrapnel. "Nurse Marsh, is it true you served in Afghanistan? Did hospital administration try to silence you? Are you planning to file a lawsuit? Is Dr. Reinhardt really being arrested for drug theft?" Lily kept walking. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside and jabbed the button for the 4th floor. The doors started to close. A hand shot between them. The doors bounced back. A young reporter pushed forward, microphone extended. "Just one question. Do you think you're a hero?" Lily looked at her. Really looked. The reporter couldn't have been older than 25. Hungry eyes, cheap suit, the kind of person who was probably being paid minimum wage to chase stories nobody else wanted. "I'm a nurse," Lily said quietly. "That's all." The doors closed. She rode up in silence, watching the floor numbers climb, feeling the walls press in. The 4th floor was the cardiac unit. She wasn't assigned there today. She was scheduled for the ER again. But she needed a minute before walking into whatever chaos waited for her downstairs. The hallway was quiet. Visiting hours hadn't started yet. She walked to the break room, poured herself water from the cooler, and stood at the window looking out over the city. Behind her, the door opened. Sandra stepped in, still in her street clothes, bag over her shoulder. She looked like she'd aged 5 years overnight. "You saw the news vans?" Lily nodded. "It's worse than that." Sandra set her bag down. "Dr. Reinhardt was arrested at his home this morning. Federal agents, the whole thing. His neighbors filmed it. It's all over social media." Jesus. And the hospital released a statement at 6 a.m. "They're calling you a hero. They're talking about implementing new protocols for nursing input during trauma cases. Patricia Morrison is scheduled to do a press conference at noon." Lily closed her eyes. "There's more." Sandra's voice dropped. 3 other nurses came forward overnight. They filed complaints about Dr. Reinhardt going back 2 years. Verbal abuse, ignoring clinical advice, creating hostile work environments. Your incident opened the floodgates. "I didn't want this." "I know. But it's happening anyway." Sandra moved closer. "The entire ER staff knows what you did, what you were. Most of them are scared of you now." "Scared? You're not who they thought you were." The quiet nurse who never pushed back suddenly has a military record that reads like something out of a movie. People don't know how to process that. Lily turned away from the window. "I just want to do my job." "Your job changed yesterday." Sandra's expression softened slightly. "Whether you like it or not." They walked down to the emergency department together. The hallway felt longer than usual. Every step carried weight. The ER was chaos, but not the medical kind. Staff clustered in groups, conversations stopping abruptly when Lily appeared. Eyes followed her. Whispers spread like infection. She went to the nurses' station and checked the assignment board. Her name had been moved to a different section. Bay 7. The critical trauma bay. The one where the most serious cases went. The one usually reserved for senior nurses with 10 or 15 years of experience. Someone had written in neat handwriting beside her name, Major Lily Marsh, RN. She stared at it. "Administration's orders," a voice said behind her. Lily turned. James Park stood there, one of the ER charge nurses, early 40s, perpetually stressed. He'd barely spoken to her in 8 months. "I didn't ask for this." "Nobody's asking what you want." James gestured at the assignment board. "After yesterday, every critical trauma case that comes through these doors is going to be assigned to you. Hospital policy. Direct from the top. That's not fair to the other nurses." "Fair?" James laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You saved a soldier's life after a senior physician nearly killed him through incompetence. You exposed drug theft and malpractice. The hospital is terrified of another incident making us look bad. So now you're the designated expert for anything serious." "I don't want special treatment." "Too bad. You've got it." James walked away, leaving Lily standing alone at the nurse's station. She looked around the ER, saw the way people avoided eye contact, saw the mixture of respect and resentment in their faces. She'd wanted to be invisible. Now she was radioactive. The morning shift started. Lily moved through her assignments mechanically. Minor traumas, mostly. A laceration that needed stitches. A possible broken wrist. A kid who'd fallen off a skateboard. Nothing that required the nurse everyone now knew had operated in war zones. Around 10 a.m., the ambulance radio crackled. Mercy Ridge, this is Rescue 14. We're inbound with a Priority 1 trauma. Male, approximately 40 years old, industrial accident, partial amputation of right hand, ETA 4 minutes. The ER mobilized. Trauma team assembling, equipment prepped. Lily moved toward Bay 7. James blocked her path. This one's yours. I know. No, you don't understand. The patient specifically asked for you. Lily froze. What? His coworkers saw the news this morning. They told the paramedics he needed the nurse who saved the soldier. He's been asking for you since they loaded him in the ambulance. The weight in her chest grew heavier. The ambulance arrived. Doors burst open. Paramedics wheeled the gurney through at a run. The man on the stretcher was conscious, face gray with shock and pain. His right hand was wrapped in blood-soaked towels, tourniqueted above the wrist. He looked at Lily through eyes that swam with agony. You're her, he gasped. You're the one from the news. I'm here. Focus on breathing. They moved him into Bay 7. The trauma team descended. Different doctors today. Nobody Lily recognized from yesterday. She gave the handoff report from the paramedics while nurses cut away clothing and established additional IV access. The man grabbed her wrist with his good hand. His grip was surprisingly strong. Don't let them mess this up, he whispered. Please. Nobody's going to mess this up. You're going to be fine. Promise me. She couldn't promise that. She wasn't even supposed to promise patients things in general. But she looked at his face and saw the terror underneath the shock. I promise I'll do everything I can. He let go. The trauma proceeded smoothly. The doctors were competent, methodical. They stabilized him, called orthopedic surgery, arranged for an OR. Within 20 minutes, he was being wheeled upstairs. Lily stood in the now empty bay, stripping off bloody gloves, and realized her hands were shaking again. Sandra appeared in the doorway. You okay? He asked for me by name. Yeah, that's going to keep happening. I don't want people counting on me because they saw me on the news. I want them to count on me because I'm good at my job. Maybe those things are the same now. Sandra handed her a bottle of water. Drink something. You look like you're about to pass out. Lily drank. The water tasted like plastic and chemicals. The ER doors opened again. Not an ambulance this time, just a man walking in, civilian clothes, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd been trained to enter hostile spaces. He was one of the tactical officers from yesterday, not the one who'd recognized her. Someone else. He approached the nurse's station, showed ID to the triage nurse, and asked for Lily by name. She met him near the waiting area, away from the cameras that had somehow multiplied outside despite security's best efforts. Major Marsh. He didn't offer his hand. I'm Lieutenant Carver. I work with the team that brought Sergeant Davis in yesterday. He's okay? Stable. Surgery went well. He'll make a full recovery. Carver glanced around, ensuring nobody was close enough to overhear. But that's not why I'm here. Then why? Because my team wants to do something for you. As thanks. I don't need thanks. I was doing my job. I know, but we're doing this anyway. He pulled out a small black case, opened it. Inside was a coin, not currency, but a military challenge coin. Dark metal, engraved with symbols Lily recognized from special operations units. This is from the entire team, everyone who works with Davis, everyone who knows what you did. Lily looked at the coin, didn't take it. I left the military, she said quietly. Doesn't mean the military left you. Carver's voice carried no judgment, just statement of fact. You're one of us, always will be, and we take care of our own. He set the case down on the counter between them and walked away before she could argue. Lily stood there, looking at the coin, feeling the weight of a past she'd tried to bury pressing down like gravity. She picked up the case, slipped it into her pocket. The day continued. More patients, more whispers, More sideways glances from staff who didn't know how to treat her now that she wasn't invisible anymore. At noon, the press conference happened. Lily watched it on the break room TV because Sandra insisted. Patricia Morrison stood at a podium with hospital logos behind her, flanked by executives and legal counsel. She read from a prepared statement about the incident, about new protocols, about the hospital's commitment to excellence and patient safety. Then she said Lily's name. Nurse Lily Marsh exemplifies the kind of clinical expertise and courage we value at Mercy Ridge Hospital. Her military service and trauma experience make her an invaluable member of our team. We are proud to have her on staff. The reporters erupted with questions. Patricia fielded them carefully, revealing nothing about Dr. Reinhardt's arrest while praising Lily in terms that made her sound like a propaganda poster. Sandra muted the TV. "Well, that's not going away anytime soon." Lily said nothing. Her phone, which she'd turned back on during a quiet moment, showed 43 missed calls and over 100 text messages, most from reporters, some from numbers she didn't recognize, a few from old military contacts she hadn't spoken to in years. One message stood out. From Colonel Preston. "Need to meet. Tonight. Same place as yesterday. Important." She texted back, "Can it wait?" "No." Lily deleted half the messages without reading them and went back to work. The afternoon brought a different kind of chaos. Word had spread beyond Phoenix. Military forums, veteran groups, social media pages dedicated to sharing stories about combat medics and trauma medicine. Someone had posted Lily's photograph, pulled from the hospital website, alongside a detailed account of what happened with Sergeant Davis. The comment section was full of people she'd served with, people who remembered her, people who called her by her call sign. "Shadowhawk saved my life in Kandahar. Best trauma nurse I ever worked with. This woman operated on me while mortars were landing 50 meters away. She's the real deal. If you're ever wounded and Shadowhawk's in the building, you're going to live, period." Lily read them standing in the medication room surrounded by locked cabinets full of drugs that Dr. Reinhardt had been stealing for months while everyone else looked the other way. She felt sick. Around 3 p.m., the ER doors opened and a group of people walked in who weren't patients. Military uniforms. 6 of them. Officers and enlisted, different branches, different units. They approached the nurses' station with the kind of purpose that made hospital security nervous. James intercepted them. "Can I help you?" The lead officer, Army, captain's rank, spoke clearly. "We're here to see Major Marsh. She's with a patient right now." "We'll wait." And they did. Standing at attention in the middle of the emergency department, drawing stares from everyone who passed, Lily emerged from an exam room 10 minutes later and froze when she saw them. The captain approached. "Major Marsh, we're sorry to interrupt your shift." "What's going on?" "We wanted to pay our respects in person." The captain gestured at the group behind him. "We're all members of the Southwest Veterans Medical Alliance. We heard what happened yesterday, what you did for Sergeant Davis, and we wanted you to know that the veteran community stands with you." "I appreciate that, but we also know the hospital's going to face pressure," another officer interrupted. A Navy commander, female, older. "Media attention, public scrutiny. We want to make sure you have support if things get difficult." Lily looked at them. 6 strangers in uniform standing in the middle of a civilian hospital, offering help she hadn't asked for. "Thank you," she said finally, "but I'm okay." "With respect, ma'am, you're not." The captain's expression stayed professional, but his voice carried weight. "We've seen what happens when people like us transition back to civilian life and try to hide who we were. It doesn't work. Eventually, something forces the truth out, and when it does, you need people who understand." "I have people." "Do you?" The Navy commander glanced around the ER. "Because from where I'm standing, everyone here looks scared of you." The words hit harder than Lily expected. The captain handed her a business card. "If you need anything, legal support, counseling, someone to talk to who gets it, call us. Anytime." They left the same way they came. Purposeful. Deliberate. Leaving Lily standing in the middle of the ER with another card in her pocket and another reminder that her past wasn't staying buried no matter how deep she tried to dig. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. More patience. More efficient teamwork from doctors who suddenly trusted her judgment without question. More distance from nurses who didn't know how to relate to someone who'd gone from invisible to legendary overnight. By the time 7 p.m. rolled around, Lily felt scraped hollow. She changed out of her scrubs in the locker room. Sandra was there, getting ready for night shift. "You survived day 1, Sandra said. "Barely. It'll get easier." "Will it?" Sandra didn't answer. They both knew the truth. Lily left through the staff entrance, avoiding the main lobby where reporters still lingered. She drove to the parking garage on level 3, where Colonel Preston had asked to meet her. He was already there, standing beside the same black SUV, but this time he wasn't alone. 2 people stood with them. One was the federal agent from yesterday. The other was a woman Lily didn't recognize. Late 30s, expensive suit, the kind of person who screamed lawyer or government official. "Major Marsh," Preston's greeting was formal. "Thank you for coming. You said it was important." "It is." Preston gestured at the woman. "This is Agent Rebecca Foster. She's with the DEA. The DEA agent stepped forward, extending her hand. Lily shook it. "I need to ask you some questions about Dr. Reinhardt," Foster said, "and about your interactions with him over the past 8 months." "I already gave a statement." "I know, but new information has come to light." Foster pulled out a tablet, swiped through several screens. "We've been tracking prescription drug theft rings in Phoenix for over a year. Dr. Reinhardt wasn't acting alone." Lily felt something cold settle in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "We believe he was part of a larger network operating within Mercy Ridge Hospital, possibly involving other physicians, pharmacy staff, and administrators." Foster turned the tablet around, showing surveillance photos. "We've identified at least 3 other doctors who may have been involved in diverting controlled substances." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because we need an inside witness, someone who works at the hospital, someone the staff trusts." Foster's expression stayed neutral. "Someone with military experience who knows how to handle dangerous situations." "Absolutely not." Lily stepped back. "I'm not an informant. I'm a nurse." "You're also someone who just exposed a major malpractice case," Preston said quietly. "These people are going to be watching you. They're going to want to know how much you saw, what you know, whether you're a threat. Then they'll figure out I don't know anything." "Will they?" Foster swiped to another image, a photo of Lily walking to her car that morning, taken from a distance with a telephoto lens. "Someone's already watching you." The parking garage suddenly felt smaller, darker. "We think the drug theft operation is bigger than just diversion," Foster continued. "We think there's organized crime involved, distribution networks, money laundering, and we think someone at Mercy Ridge is running point. You want me to help you find out who? We want you to keep your eyes open, report anything suspicious, help us build a case that protects patients and shuts down a criminal operation." Foster closed the tablet. "You saved 1 soldier yesterday. You could save hundreds of people by helping us with this." Lily looked at Preston. "Did you know about this yesterday?" "I knew Reinhardt was dirty. I didn't know how deep it went." His voice carried something that might have been apology. "But now that we do, we can't ignore it. So you want to use me as bait?" "We want to give you a chance to do what you've always done," Foster said. "Protect people. Make things right. Be someone who doesn't look away when others are being hurt." Lily wanted to say no, wanted to walk away, wanted to tell them she'd already sacrificed enough and didn't owe anyone anything more. But she thought about Dr. Reinhardt, stealing medications while treating patients. She thought about whoever took that photo of her this morning. She thought about all the people who might be harmed by whatever operation was running inside Mercy Ridge Hospital. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I do it my way. I'm not wearing a wire. I'm not entrapping anyone. I just report what I see." Foster nodded. "That's all we're asking. And when this goes public, because it will, I want protection. I'm not getting thrown under the bus when things get messy." "You'll have full federal protection," Foster promised. "We'll make sure of it." Lily looked between them. Preston, who'd pulled her into this mess. Foster, who wanted to pull her deeper. And somewhere beyond them, the hospital full of people who either feared her or needed her or both. "Fine," she said, "but if anyone gets hurt because of this, I'm out." "Fair enough." Foster handed her another business card. Everyone was giving her cards today. "Call this number if you see anything, day or night. It goes directly to me." They talked for another 20 minutes. Foster explained what to look for. Irregular medication orders, doctors working unusual hours, pharmacy discrepancies. Preston added context about how military drug theft operations worked, patterns that might translate to civilian settings. By the time they finished, the sun had set. Phoenix glittered below them, light spreading across the valley like stars reflected in dark water. Lily drove home through evening traffic, checking her mirrors constantly, wondering if the car 3 lengths back was surveillance or paranoia. Her apartment felt different when she opened the door. Not physically, but the sense of safety had evaporated. Someone knew where she lived, someone was watching. She checked every window, locked every door, set her phone on the counter and stared at the stack of business cards she'd collected over 2 days. Military veterans offering support, federal agents recruiting informants, reporters hunting stories, tactical operators grateful for their teammates' life. None of them cards from the person she'd been 8 months ago, the invisible nurse who just wanted to help people and be left alone. That person was gone, burned away by one decompression needle and the exposure that followed. Lily sat on her couch in the dark and wondered if she'd made a mistake coming back to civilian life at all. Maybe some people weren't meant to leave the war behind. Maybe the war followed you whether you wanted it or not. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have interfered yesterday." Lily stared at the message, felt ice spread through her veins. She typed back, "Who is this?" No response. She called Foster immediately. The DEA agent answered on the first ring. "I just got a threatening text." "From what number?" Lily read it off, heard typing on the other end. "It's a burner phone," Foster said after a moment. "Activated today. No way to trace the user." "Someone from the hospital?" "Probably. Can you forward me the message?" Lily did, then sat in her dark apartment holding her phone, listening to the sounds of Phoenix at night through walls that suddenly felt paper thin. "We're going to increase surveillance on your building," Foster said, "and I'm sending someone to install better security. They'll be there within the hour." "This is really happening." "Yes, which means you need to be careful. Vary your route to work. Don't go anywhere alone if you can help it. And if you see anything suspicious, call me immediately." They hung up. Lily sat in the dark for another 20 minutes before the knock came at her door. 2 federal agents. They swept her apartment, installed new locks, gave her a panic button she could carry, made her memorize Foster's number, checked all her windows and explained what to do if she felt threatened. When they left, Lily stood in her apartment that now felt like a safe house and wondered how her life had spiraled this far out of control in less than 48 hours. She tried to sleep, couldn't. Lay in bed watching shadows move across her ceiling, listening to every sound in the building, her mind running through scenarios and contingencies the way it used to before missions overseas. Around 2 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Another text from a different unknown number. "Shadowhawk. Long time. Heard you're making waves in Phoenix. Some of us would like to reconnect. Coffee tomorrow?" Lily sat up in bed. Read the message 3 more times. No military contact would reach out through an unknown number at 2 a.m. Nobody who actually knew her would use her call sign in a text message. She forwarded it to Foster, got an immediate response. "Don't reply. We're tracking it." But the message stayed on her screen, glowing in the dark. A threat wrapped in familiarity. Someone was testing her, seeing if she'd respond, trying to figure out how much she knew and who she was talking to. Lily deleted the message, turned off her phone, lay back down in the dark. Tomorrow she'd go back to the hospital. Back to the ER, where everyone watched her with mixed fear and respect. Back to the place where people counted on her because they'd seen her save a life and didn't understand that she was drowning in the aftermath. Back to the place where someone was running a criminal operation and now knew she was a threat. She closed her eyes and tried to remember what normal felt like. What it was like to just be a nurse, to blend into the background, to be invisible. But that person was dead. Killed by her own competence and the inability to watch someone die when she had the skills to prevent it. The war hadn't followed her home. She'd brought it with her, carried it in her hands and her training and her refusal to stay silent when silence would let someone die. And now she was going to have to fight it all over again, not with needles and scalpels in a trauma bay, but with silence and observation and the slow, careful work of exposing people who hid behind white coats and institutional authority while hurting the vulnerable. Lily opened her eyes in the dark. Somewhere in Phoenix, someone was awake too. Someone who'd sent those messages. Someone who wanted her scared enough to stop asking questions. They didn't know who they were dealing with. She'd operated in combat zones where every decision meant life or death. She'd held soldiers together with her bare hands while the world exploded around them. She'd walked away from the military thinking she'd left the war behind. But some wars don't end. They just change shape. And Lily Marsh was done running from hers. The coffee sat untouched on Lily's kitchen counter when her alarm went off at 5 a.m. She'd been awake anyway, watching the window, waiting for sunrise like it might bring answers. It didn't. She dressed in the dark, checked her phone. No new messages, which somehow felt worse than threats. Slipped the panic button into her scrub pocket alongside the challenge coin from yesterday and the stack of business cards that represented everyone who wanted something from her. The drive to Mercy Ridge took 40 minutes instead of 25. She varied her route like Foster had instructed, doubling back twice, watching for cars that followed too closely or stayed too consistent in traffic. Nothing obvious. But that didn't mean nothing was there. The hospital parking garage felt different in early morning light. Emptier. Her footsteps echoed too loud against concrete. She took the stairs instead of the elevator, emerged on the ground floor and walked straight into a problem. 3 administrators stood outside the ER entrance. Patricia Morrison, flanked by 2 others Lily vaguely recognized from hospital meetings she'd never been important enough to attend before. Patricia spotted her immediately. "Nurse Marsh, perfect timing. We need to speak with you before your shift." Not a request. They walked to a small conference room off the main corridor. The door closed with a sound that felt final. Patricia sat. The others remained standing. Classic intimidation setup. Lily had seen it used in military briefings when someone was about to get reprimanded. "We have a situation," Patricia began. 3 physicians submitted formal complaints about you yesterday afternoon." Lily stayed quiet. "They claim you've created a hostile work environment, that you're undermining their authority, that staff are refusing to follow doctors' orders because they're waiting to see if you'll contradict them." Patricia slid a folder across the table. "These are serious allegations. Let me guess. The 3 doctors are friends of Reinhardt." "That's irrelevant." "Is it?" Lily didn't open the folder. "Because it sounds like retaliation for exposing malpractice and drug theft." One of the other administrators, a thin man with wire-frame glasses, spoke up. "The complaints detail specific instances where you've questioned physician judgment in front of patients and created confusion about chain of command." "I questioned judgment when that judgment was going to kill someone. That's my job." "Your job is to follow orders," the man snapped. "Not to—" "My job is to advocate for patient safety." Lily's voice stayed level. "And if a doctor's orders conflict with that, I'm legally and ethically obligated to speak up." Patricia raised a hand, silencing the other administrator. "Nobody's questioning your clinical skills, Lily, but we need to address the perception that you're creating division within the medical staff." "The perception, not the reality. In a hospital, they're the same thing." Patricia leaned forward. "We're already dealing with massive fallout from the Reinhardt situation. Federal investigators, media scrutiny, lawsuits being filed by former patients. We cannot afford internal conflict right now. So you want me to stay quiet when I see problems? We want you to follow proper channels. File concerns through appropriate administrative procedures. Let us handle situations before they become public incidents." Lily finally opened the folder, scanned the complaints. They were professionally written, carefully worded to make her sound insubordinate without directly saying she was wrong. One complaint claimed she'd aggressively challenged a doctor during a cardiac arrest. Another said she'd created panic by suggesting alternative treatment approaches. The third accused her of using military intimidation tactics to override medical decisions. She closed the folder. "These are all cases where I was right and the doctors were wrong. You can check the patient outcomes." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" Patricia's expression hardened. "The point is that you need to decide whether you want to work within this system or against it, because right now you're making a lot of powerful people very uncomfortable." "Good." The word hung in the air. The thin administrator looked like he'd swallowed something bitter. "Nurse Marsh, I don't think you understand the seriousness of—" "I understand perfectly." Lily stood. "You're scared that more people like Reinhardt are going to be exposed. You're scared of lawsuits and bad press and losing your jobs. And you want me to be quiet and cooperative so you can contain the damage. That's not... But here's what you don't understand. Lily placed both hands on the table, leaning forward. I spent 4 years keeping soldiers alive in conditions where one mistake meant immediate death. I don't scare easily, and I'm not going to protect people who hurt patients just because it makes your administrative lives easier. Patricia stood slowly. Then you should know that we're placing you on administrative review, effective immediately. The room went cold. You're suspending me? We're conducting an investigation into these complaints. During that time, you'll be reassigned to non-clinical duties, training documentation, protocol review, nothing patient-facing until this is resolved. How long? 2 weeks minimum, possibly longer depending on what the investigation reveals. Lily felt the ground shift beneath her. You're benching me because I did my job correctly. We're protecting the hospital, the thin administrator said. And frankly, protecting you. The attention you're receiving is creating a dangerous environment. We've had reporters trying to access patient care areas. We've had veterans showing up demanding to see you. It's disruptive. So this is about optics. This is about maintaining order, Patricia said. Take the 2 weeks. Let things calm down. Come back when the media circus has moved on and we can all function normally again. Lily looked at the three of them, saw the fear underneath the professional masks, saw people more interested in preserving their positions than protecting patients. If I refuse, then we'll have to consider whether this is the right environment for you. Patricia's voice stayed neutral, carefully worded, lawyer approved. We value your contributions, Lily, but we need team players, not lone wolves. The meeting ended. Lily walked out feeling like she'd been stripped of rank, even though technically she still had her job. James was waiting in the hallway. He'd obviously been told to intercept her. Your badge has been flagged, he said quietly. You won't be able to access patient care areas. HR wants you to report to the 3rd floor. Are people celebrating? James looked uncomfortable. Some are relieved. They didn't know how to work around you, but others... He trailed off. Others what? Sandra asked me to give you this. He handed her a folded piece of paper. She said you'd understand. Lily opened it. Sandra's handwriting. Bay 7. Medication discrepancy. Check the logs from last Tuesday, 2200 to 0400. Nobody's looking at overnight shifts. She refolded the paper, slipped it into her pocket. I didn't see anything, James said, already walking away. Lily stood in the corridor while hospital staff flowed around her like water around a stone. Everyone suddenly busy. Everyone avoiding eye contact. She went up to the 3rd floor, found the HR office, spent 3 hours filling out paperwork and sitting through interviews where administrators asked careful questions designed to document any potential liability. Did she feel the complaints against her were justified? No. Did she understand why her actions might be perceived as insubordinate? Yes, but that didn't make them wrong. Would she commit to following proper channels in the future? If those channels actually worked, yes. The HR director, a woman named Michelle with a smile that never reached her eyes, walked her through the administrative review process like she was explaining rules to a child. During this period, you'll document our existing trauma protocols. We want a comprehensive review of every procedure, every decision tree, every communication pathway. Think of it as contributing your expertise to improve the system. You're having me write the protocols you're going to use to limit nursing input. Michelle's smile didn't waver. We're having you contribute to institutional knowledge. Whether you choose to view that cynically is up to you. Lily spent the rest of the morning in a windowless office, surrounded by binders full of policies that nobody followed and procedures that looked perfect on paper but fell apart under real-world pressure. Her phone buzzed around 11. Text from Foster. Need to meet. Lunch. Angelo's on 5th. Come alone. Lily left through a side exit, took a rideshare instead of her car, watched the streets pass, looking for tales she probably wouldn't recognize anyway. Angelo's was a small Italian place tucked between office buildings. The kind of restaurant that survived on lunch crowds and early bird dinners. Foster sat in a back booth, already eating. Lily slid in across from her. They suspended me. I know. We heard. Foster didn't look surprised. Which means we need to move faster. You knew they were going to do this. We suspected. When you expose corruption, the corrupt fight back. Standard playbook. Foster pushed a menu toward Lily. Order something. We're going to be here a while. Lily ordered coffee she wouldn't drink. Foster waited until the waitress left before continuing. The text messages you received last night came from inside the hospital network. Someone using the guest Wi-Fi, but the location data puts them in the administrative wing. So it's staff. Almost certainly, and they're nervous. Foster pulled out her phone, showed Lily a photo. Recognize him? The image showed a man in his 50s, expensive suit, silver hair. Lily had seen him around the hospital but couldn't place the name. That's Dr. Vernon Castellano, chief of surgery, also on the hospital board. Also, as of this morning, under investigation for writing fraudulent prescriptions dating back 3 years. Lily's stomach dropped. How deep does this go? Deeper than we thought. Reinhardt was small-time, street-level distribution. Castellano is connected to organized crime. Mexican cartels operating in Phoenix. We think he's been using the hospital as a pipeline for fentanyl and oxycodone for at least 5 years. And nobody noticed? People noticed. They just didn't survive long enough to testify. Foster swiped to another image. A young woman, early 30s, professional photo. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, anesthesiologist, found dead in her apartment 6 months ago, ruled a suicide. But it wasn't. We're reopening the investigation. She'd filed concerns about medication discrepancies 3 weeks before her death, concerns that went straight to Castellano. The coffee arrived. Lily stared at it, feeling sick. Why are you telling me this? Because you're in danger. Foster's voice dropped. Castellano knows you exposed Reinhardt. He knows federal agents are investigating, and he knows you're a threat to his entire operation. So what do you want me to do? We want you to get us evidence we can use. You've been reassigned to administrative work, protocol documentation. That means you'll have access to medication logs, surgical schedules, prescription records, everything we need to build a case. You want me to steal hospital records. We want you to document irregularities, take photos, make copies, anything that shows the pattern. Foster leaned forward. We can't get a warrant without probable cause. But if you find something as part of your legitimate work assignment, that's admissible. Lily pushed the coffee away. This is insane. This is necessary. Castellano has connections, political influence, lawyers who've made evidence disappear before. The only way we take him down is if we build an airtight case he can't wiggle out of. And if he figures out I'm gathering evidence? Foster's expression answered the question without words. Lily thought about Dr. Mitchell, about a young physician who'd tried to do the right thing and ended up dead, about how many other people had seen problems and stayed quiet because speaking up was dangerous. She thought about the text messages, the threats, the surveillance photo. Someone was already watching her, already trying to scare her into silence. What kind of evidence are you looking for? Foster's eyes sharpened. Prescription patterns. Doctors writing scripts for patients who don't exist. Medication orders that don't match surgical procedures. Controlled substances going missing from pharmacy inventory. Anything that shows systematic diversion. Sandra mentioned something. Lily pulled out the note. Medication discrepancy in Bay 7. Overnight shift last Tuesday. Foster photographed the note with her phone. Can you access those logs? Probably. I'm supposed to be reviewing trauma protocols. Medication administration is part of that. Then start there. See what you find. Document everything. Foster slid a small device across the table. It looked like a USB drive. This is encrypted storage. Plug it into any hospital computer. It'll copy files without leaving traces in the system logs. Lily picked it up. The device was warm from Foster's pocket. Light. Innocuous. The kind of thing that could end her career or save her life depending on how she used it. If I do this, I need protection. Real protection, not just surveillance. You'll have it. We're putting a team on you starting tonight. Discreet. You won't see them, but they'll be there. And if something happens before tonight, Foster pulled out a small canister. Pepper spray, keep it on you. If anyone threatens you directly, use it first and call me second. Lily took the canister, added it to her growing collection of things she'd never thought she'd need as a civilian nurse. They finished the meeting. Foster paid cash. Lily left first, taking a different route back to the hospital. The afternoon stretched into evening. She sat in the windowless office pulling medication logs from the hospital database, cross-referencing them with patient records and surgical schedules. At first, nothing stood out. Normal patterns, expected usage, everything by the book. Then she found Tuesday night, Bay 7, the trauma bay where she'd saved Sergeant Davis. Between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., someone had ordered fentanyl, morphine, and ketamine, doses that should have corresponded to patient care. But when Lily checked the patient records from that night, none of them matched the medications ordered. The drugs had been pulled from pharmacy, signed out under proper protocols, and then vanished. She checked the signature on the orders. Dr. Vernon Castellano, chief of surgery, board member. The man Foster had shown her at lunch. Lily took photos with her phone, copied the files to the encrypted drive, kept searching. The pattern repeated across multiple nights. Always overnight shifts, always when skeleton crews were on duty and nobody was paying attention. Always signed by Castellano or one of two other physicians whose names appeared consistently. Hundreds of doses. Maybe thousands over months and years. Enough to supply a significant distribution network. Lily's hand started shaking around hour 3. She took a break, walked to the break room, found Sandra refilling her water bottle. "You're still here," Sandra said quietly. "Doing my assigned work, reviewing protocols. Find anything interesting?" "Maybe. You were right about Tuesday night." Sandra's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Be careful. People who ask questions about overnight shifts have a tendency to find new jobs. Or worse. Worse like Dr. Mitchell." Sandra's water bottle stopped mid-fill. She looked around, ensuring they were alone. "You know about that?" "I'm learning." Lily lowered her voice. "Did you know her?" "She was a friend, smart, dedicated. Started noticing medication discrepancies and thought she could fix them through proper channels." Sandra's jaw tightened. 3 weeks later, she's dead. Apparent overdose. Ironic for an anesthesiologist. "Did you believe it was suicide?" "No. But I couldn't prove otherwise. And I have a daughter in college, so I stayed quiet." Sandra finished filling her bottle. "Until you showed up and reminded me that staying quiet has consequences too. I'm not trying to be a hero. Neither was Sarah. But she's dead and the people who killed her are still walking around wearing white coats and deciding who lives and dies." Sandra moved toward the door, then paused. "If you're going to do something about this, do it fast. They already know you're a problem. They're just deciding how to solve it." She left. Lily went back to the office, kept digging, found more irregularities, more phantom patients, more medications that disappeared into the Phoenix night. Around 7 p.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number, different from the previous threats. She answered anyway. "Major Marsh?" The voice was male, older, cultured. "I think we should talk." "Who is this?" "Someone who can make your problems go away. All of them. The complaints, the administrative review, the unwanted attention. I can fix everything." "I'm listening." "Good. That's smart. Meet me tonight, 10 p.m., the observation deck on the hospital roof. Come alone. I don't take meetings with people who won't identify themselves." "You will for this one, because if you don't, tomorrow morning you'll find out that your military service record has been leaked to every news outlet in Phoenix, including the classified missions, including the details about the operations that went wrong." Lily's blood went cold. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Test me. Don't show up tonight and see what happens." The voice stayed calm, professional, like ordering coffee. 10 p.m., roof, alone, or everyone learns about Kandahar and what really happened to those civilians. The line went dead. Lily sat staring at her phone, feeling the walls close in. Kandahar. The mission nobody talked about. The one that ended with casualties and questions, and her getting pulled out of theater for 3 months while investigators sorted through what happened. It had been cleared. Eventually. Ruled justified. But the details were classified for a reason. If those details went public, it wouldn't matter that she'd been cleared. The court of public opinion didn't care about military rules of engagement or split-second decisions made under fire. She'd be destroyed. She called Foster, got voicemail, left a message. Someone just threatened to leak my classified service record unless I meet them on the hospital roof at 10 tonight. Unknown number. Male voice. Need guidance immediately. Then she sat in the dark office and tried to figure out what to do. Going to the meeting was obviously a trap. Nobody sets up a late-night rooftop meeting with good intentions. But not going meant her past became public, meant questions about Kandahar, meant everything she'd tried to leave behind dragged into the spotlight. Her phone rang. Foster. "Don't go to that meeting," Foster said immediately. "It's an ambush. They're going to try to make it look like you jumped." "They have access to my classified records." "No, they don't. They're bluffing. Military personnel files are locked down tight. Nobody outside DOD can access them." "You're sure?" "Positive. They're trying to scare you into a vulnerable position." Foster's voice carried urgency. "Where are you right now?" "Hospital, 3rd floor, administrative offices." "Stay there. I'm sending agents to extract you. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't—" The lights went out. Not just in the office, the entire floor. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in dim red. Lily's phone died mid-call. Not low battery, just dead, screen black. She stood in the emergency lighting, hearing her own heartbeat, and understood with perfect clarity that she was in immediate danger. Someone had cut the power, killed her phone, isolated her on a floor that would be mostly empty at this hour. She moved to the door, locked from the outside. The panic button in her pocket was useless if her phone was dead, and she was trapped in a room with no windows. Lily looked around the office. Standard furniture, computer terminal, filing cabinets, nothing useful for defense or escape. She grabbed the desk chair. Solid metal frame, heavy enough to break a lock if applied correctly. She was positioning it to ram the door when she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Not security. Security moved fast and loud, announcing their presence. These footsteps were careful, measured. The sound of someone who knew exactly where they were going and didn't want to advertise it. Lily stepped away from the door, moved to the side where the door would hide her when it opened. The footsteps stopped outside her office. The handle turned, locked. Then the sound of keys. Someone with access. The door opened slowly. A figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the emergency lighting. Male. Average height. White coat. Doctor or administrator. He moved toward the desk where Lily should have been sitting. Found it empty. Turned. Lily swung the chair. It caught him in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. He went down hard, hitting the filing cabinet with a sound like meat slapping concrete. She didn't wait to see if he got up. She ran. Into the hallway. Emergency lighting painting everything in horror movie red. Her footsteps echoing too loud. Behind her the man shouted, not in pain, calling for someone. Other footsteps, coming from both directions. Lily sprinted for the stairwell, hit the door at full speed. It didn't budge. Locked. The elevator. Also locked out during emergency power. She was trapped on the 3rd floor with people hunting her. She ran toward the opposite end of the corridor. There had to be another exit. Fire codes required it. A figure emerged from a side hallway. Another white coat. This one holding something that caught the emergency lighting wrong. A syringe. Lily changed direction, ducked into a patient room. Empty, dark. She moved to the window. 3rd floor. Too high to jump without breaking bones. But there was a ledge, narrow, maybe 6 inches. Running the length of the building beneath the windows. She opened the window. Cold air rushed in. Behind her, the door opened. "Don't be stupid," a voice said. "There's nowhere to go." Lily recognized the voice from the phone call. Cultured, professional. The man who'd threatened her with Kandahar. She turned. Dr. Vernon Castellano stood in the doorway. Silver hair, expensive suit under his white coat, and in his hand a syringe filled with something that would probably look like a suicide when they found her body. "The observation deck would have been cleaner," he said. "But this works too. Distraught nurse under investigation, pressure too much, tragic accident, fell while trying to escape through a window during a power outage. You killed Dr. Mitchell. Sarah made a choice, just like you're making one now." Castellano stepped into the room. She could have been quiet, could have enjoyed a long, successful career. Instead, she asked questions nobody wanted answered. "And you murdered her." "I protected an operation worth millions of dollars and employing dozens of people. Her life versus hundreds of livelihoods. Simple math." He moved closer. "But you're different. You're famous now. War hero. Military record. Killing you creates complications. So don't. Unfortunately, you've already seen too much. Foster's been in contact with you. You've been gathering evidence. We can't let you testify. We? Lily's back hit the window frame.
Did you think Reinhardt was working alone? That I was? Castellano smiled. This hospital is a machine. Administrators, physicians, pharmacy staff, security, everyone taking their piece. You threatened all of that when you saved that soldier. So you're going to kill me. I'm going to create a tragedy. There's a difference. He raised the syringe. This won't hurt. Ketamine and propofol. You'll go to sleep, fall out the window, quick, painless, almost merciful. Lily calculated distances. Castellano was between her and the door. The window was open behind her. The ledge waited in the cold Phoenix night. She had maybe 3 seconds before he closed the distance. She jumped backward through the window onto the ledge. The cold air hit like a slap. The ledge was narrower than it looked, barely wide enough for her feet. Nothing to hold except the window frame. Castellano appeared in the window. You're going to fall anyway. Make it easy on yourself. Lily edged along the ledge, away from the window, toward the corner of the building where maybe there was another window. Another way inside. Her foot slipped. She caught herself on the window frame, held on with fingers that were already going numb from cold and adrenaline. Last chance, Castellano said. Come inside. We'll make this quick. Lily looked down. 3 stories. Concrete below. Emergency vehicles in the parking lot. People too far away to hear if she screamed. She looked at Castellano, at the man who'd murdered a colleague and was about to murder her to protect a drug operation. And she made a choice. She let go of the window frame, grabbed the ledge with both hands, dropped into a hang, swung her legs, found purchase on the window ledge below, 2nd floor. She crashed through the window feet first. Glass exploded. She hit the floor rolling, momentum carrying her across an empty patient room. Behind her, Castellano's voice, "Find her! Now!" Lily got up, bleeding from a dozen cuts, glass in her hair, but alive. She ran into the 2nd floor corridor just as the emergency power kicked off and the regular lights came back on. The sudden brightness was blinding. Hospital staff materialized, nurses, orderlies, security. And at the far end of the corridor, federal agents in tactical gear, moving fast, weapons drawn, Foster leading them. "Lily!" Foster's voice cut through the chaos. "Get down!" Lily hit the floor. The agents swarmed past her, up the stairs, toward the 3rd floor where Castellano and his people were. Foster reached Lily, helped her up. "Are you hurt?" "Glass, cuts, nothing serious. We need to get you out of here." "How did you know?" "Your panic button has a GPS tracker. When your phone died, we got an alert." Foster was already moving, half carrying Lily toward the exit. "The whole thing was a setup. They cut the power to isolate you. We were outside waiting for them to make their move." They emerged into the night air, ambulances, police vehicles, federal agents everywhere. Lily watched them storm into Mercy Ridge Hospital like it was a combat zone, which, she realized, it had become. Foster handed her off to paramedics who started treating her cuts while asking questions about what happened. Lily answered mechanically. Her mind was elsewhere, thinking about Castellano's face in that window, thinking about how close she'd come to being another tragic suicide, another person who'd asked the wrong questions and paid with her life. Around her, Phoenix police were setting up a perimeter. News vans were arriving. The story was about to explode across every media outlet in the Southwest. A federal agent approached Foster, said something Lily couldn't hear. Foster's expression went dark. She turned to Lily. "Castellano's gone." "What?" "He wasn't on the 3rd floor when our team breached. Nobody was. They evacuated before we got there." Foster's jaw tightened. "He's running." Lily felt ice in her stomach. "He knows you're coming for him. And he has resources, money, connections, people who can move him out of the country before we can issue warrants." Foster pulled out her phone, started making calls. Lily sat on the ambulance bumper while paramedics bandaged her hands and watched federal agents swarm through the hospital where she'd tried to be invisible. Her phone, somehow working again now that the hospital power was back, buzzed in her pocket. Text from an unknown number. "You should have taken the meeting, Major. Now this gets messy, and people you care about get hurt. Starting with Sandra's daughter, Hope Columbia University has good security.
The message included a photo, a college campus, a young woman with Sandra's eyes walking between buildings. Lily's hands started shaking so badly the paramedic had to stop working. Foster saw her expression. "What is it?" Lily showed her the phone. Foster read the message. Her face went white. "We need to get protection on that girl. Now. He's going after everyone around me. He's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes." Foster was already on her phone, coordinating with someone. "We'll get her somewhere safe, I promise." But the promise felt hollow. Because Castellano had just shown that he could reach anyone, that nobody was safe, that fighting back meant putting everyone she knew in danger. Lily thought about Sandra, about the tactical officers who'd given her the challenge coin, about Sergeant Davis recovering upstairs, about Foster and the agents who'd risked their careers to investigate this. All of them vulnerable now. All of them targets because she'd refused to stay quiet. The hospital doors burst open. 2 federal agents emerged, walking someone between them in handcuffs. Not Castellano, Dr. Hammond. One of the physicians who'd filed complaints about Lily. One of the names on the medication logs. He looked at Lily as they walked him past. His expression was pure hatred. "This isn't over," he said. "You have no idea what you've started." The agents kept moving, pushed him into a waiting vehicle. More arrests followed, pharmacy staff, an administrator. 2 more physicians. People being walked out of Mercy Ridge in handcuffs while news cameras captured everything. But not Castellano. The man at the center of everything was gone. Lily's phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "Tick-tock, Major. Every hour I'm free, someone else becomes a target. Maybe that tactical officer who recognized you. Maybe Colonel Preston. Maybe Foster herself. How many people die before you realize you can't win this?" Lily showed the message to Foster. Foster's expression went from concerned to furious. "He's bluffing. He's on the run. He doesn't have time to—" Her phone rang. She answered, listened. Her face changed. "When?" Pause. "How bad?" Longer pause. "I'll be right there." She hung up. Looked at Lily. "Colonel Preston's car was run off the road 20 minutes ago. He's alive but critical. They're bringing him here." The ambulance arrived 5 minutes later. Paramedics rushed Preston through the emergency bay doors. Lily caught a glimpse of his face, unconscious, bleeding, broken. Another person hurt because she'd fought back. Foster grabbed her arm. "This is not your fault, isn't it? Castellano is doing this, not you. He's the criminal. He's the one making these choices. And I'm the one who gave him a reason to escalate." The ER swallowed Colonel Preston. Lily stood outside, covered in bandages and glass cuts, watching the fallout of her decision to speak up spread like shrapnel through everyone around her. Her phone didn't buzz again. It didn't need to. The message was clear. People who fought corruption ended up dead or broken, and everyone who supported them became collateral damage. Lily looked at the hospital, at the federal agents, at the news cameras, at the wreckage of what had been her attempt at a quiet civilian life, and she realized with perfect clarity that there was only one way this ended now. She had to find Castellano before he hurt anyone else, even if it meant putting herself directly in his crosshairs, even if it meant becoming the hunter instead of the hunted. Somewhere in Phoenix, a man who'd murdered colleagues and threatened innocent people was running, planning his next move, deciding who to hurt to send his message. Lily pulled out her phone, opened the encrypted files she'd copied, started looking for patterns, for habits, for anything that might tell her where a desperate man with millions of dollars and organized crime connections would run when the walls closed in. Foster was coordinating with other agents. Nobody was watching Lily. She walked away from the ambulance, away from the chaos, into the parking garage where her car waited. If they were going to find Castellano through official channels, it would take time. Warrants, procedures, legal processes, time that Colonel Preston didn't have, time that gave Castellano chances to hurt more people. But Lily had spent 4 years operating in environments where official channels didn't exist, where threats had to be neutralized immediately because waiting meant people died. She knew how to hunt, and now she had a target. She got in her car, started the engine, pulled out of the parking garage while behind her, Mercy Ridge Hospital blazed with emergency lights and federal agents and the beginning of a scandal that would reshape Phoenix healthcare. Her phone buzzed one final time as she merged into traffic.
Foster. Where are you? Lily didn't respond because some hunts couldn't be done by committee. Some battles had to be fought alone. And Vernon Castellano had just made the fatal mistake of thinking a combat medic would scare easily. He was about to learn what happened when you threatened someone who'd survived war zones. The Phoenix streets were empty at this hour, just past midnight, but Lily drove like she was being followed, checking mirrors, varying speed, taking turns that didn't make sense unless you were trying to lose surveillance. She wasn't running, she was thinking. The encrypted files from the hospital sat on the USB drive in her pocket. Medication logs, prescription patterns, names. But there was something else buried in that data, something Foster's team might not have caught because they were looking for drug theft, not the bigger picture. Lily pulled into a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of Scottsdale, the kind of place that survived on truckers and insomniacs. She took a booth in the back corner where she could watch both entrances, ordered coffee, opened her laptop, plugged in the encrypted drive. The files loaded. She started cross-referencing, not just medication orders, but patient names, addresses, insurance information, the administrative data that everyone ignored because it seemed irrelevant, except it wasn't. 20 minutes in, she found the pattern. The phantom patients, the fake names Castellano used to order controlled substances, all had addresses in the same 3 zip codes: industrial areas, warehouses, commercial properties. Lily pulled up property records, started matching addresses to owners. 3 warehouses, all owned by the same shell corporation, all leased to medical supply companies that didn't exist, and all located within 2 miles of Mercy Ridge Hospital. She sat back, staring at the screen. Castellano wasn't just stealing drugs from the hospital. He was running a distribution network, using fake patients to generate prescriptions, using the warehouses to store and distribute, using the hospital as cover for an operation that probably supplied half the Phoenix drug trade. Her phone rang. Foster. Lily answered. I'm fine, Don't try to track this call. Where the hell are you? Foster's voice was sharp with worry and anger. You can't just disappear in the middle of a federal investigation. I'm following a lead. We have agents for that. You're a witness, a target. You're supposed to be in protective custody. I found something. Lily kept her voice low, watching the diner entrance. Castellano's distribution warehouses, 3 locations. I'm sending you the addresses now. She heard typing on Foster's end. How did you find these? Patient addresses from the fake prescriptions. They all connect to properties owned by the same shell company. He's been using the hospital as a front for years. A pause. Then Foster's voice, tight with something that might have been respect. We'll get teams to those locations immediately. He won't be there. How do you know? Because he's not stupid. He knows we found the hospital connection. He's already evacuated those sites. Lily pulled up another file. But I found something else. Travel records. Castellano has a plane. Private hangar at Scottsdale Airport. Registered under a different name, but the payment records trace back to him. You think he's running? I think he's planning to, but not yet. Lily studied the flight logs. He has a scheduled departure tomorrow at 6 a.m. Destination listed as Belize. No extradition treaty. Foster swore softly. We need to get there before he boards that plane. He won't wait for scheduled departure if he thinks you're closing in. Then what do you suggest? Lily looked at the property records again, at the pattern underneath the pattern. He needs something before he runs, something important enough to risk staying in Phoenix another 12 hours. What? Money. Access codes. Evidence he needs to destroy. I don't know yet. Lily zoomed in on one of the warehouse addresses. But he has a weakness. He's arrogant. He told me tonight that this operation employs dozens of people, that it's worth millions. People like that don't just walk away. They protect their assets first. So we watch the warehouses. No, we watch the one place he'll have to come back to if he wants to cover his tracks completely. Lily pulled up another file. The hospital pharmacy, that's where the records are. Physical prescriptions, signature logs, the paper trail that proves he authorized everything. Those records are already in federal custody. The official records, yes, but there's always a backup, especially in medical facilities. Disaster recovery protocols require off-site storage. Lily found what she was looking for.
Mercy Ridge uses a private document management company, Highland Archives. They store all hospital records going back 20 years. Foster was quiet for a moment. He's going to try to destroy those records.
He has to. It's the only way to claim he was set up, that Reinhardt and the others were acting alone. Lily closed her laptop. If we want to catch him, that's where we wait. Highland Archives is a private facility. We can't just stake it out without probable cause. You can if you have a witness who knows exactly what he's looking for. Lily stood, dropped cash on the table for coffee she'd barely touched. I'm going there now. You can either meet me or arrest me later for obstruction. Lily. She hung up.
Highland Archives was located in an industrial park near the airport. Lily drove past it twice, studying the layout. Single-story building, security cameras, card access entry, small parking lot with maybe 10 spaces. 2 cars were parked there despite it being after 1 a.m. Security, probably. Maybe night staff processing records. Lily parked a block away and walked back. Stayed in shadows. Watched. 15 minutes later, a black Mercedes pulled into the lot. Expensive. Out of place in an industrial area at this hour. A man got out. Not Castellano. Younger, well-dressed, moving with purpose toward the building entrance. He used a key card. The door opened. He disappeared inside. Lily's phone buzzed. Text from Foster. On our way, E.T. A 15 minutes. Do not engage. Another text, different number. Sandra. I heard about Colonel Preston. Is it true? Is he going to be okay? Lily typed back. They're working on him. Your daughter? Federal agents picked her up from her dorm. She's scared but safe. What's happening? Justice. Finally. She put her phone on silent and moved closer to the building. Through the front windows, she could see the lobby, security desk, guards standing up, talking to the well-dressed man. No alarm, no tension. The man was expected. They disappeared into a back corridor. Lily circled the building, found a service entrance. No cameras covering this angle, probably an oversight, or maybe they'd assumed nobody would care about a record storage facility. She tried the door. Locked, but it was old metal with a standard commercial lock, the kind that opened if you knew what you were doing. Lily had learned lock picking in the military. Sometimes you needed to access spaces quickly and quietly without waiting for official authorization. 30 seconds later, she was inside. The corridor was dark, emergency lighting casting green shadows. She moved quietly, following the sound of voices. Everything from 2019 to present, the well-dressed man was saying. Dr. Castellano wants it all destroyed. No traces. The guard's voice. That's a lot of records. It'll take hours to pull and shred. You have until 4 a.m. After that, this facility was broken into. Vandalized. Records destroyed by unknown parties. You were overpowered, unconscious, remember nothing. And my payment? $50,000. Cash. Half now, half when it's done. Lily heard the sound of money being counted. She edged closer to the corner, staying in shadow. The guard and the well-dressed man were in what looked like a main archive room. Rows of filing cabinets and boxes. Climate-controlled. Everything labeled and organized. The guard pocketed the cash. What about surveillance footage? Already handled. The system will show a technical glitch from midnight to 5 a.m. Nothing recorded. The well-dressed man checked his watch. Get started. Dr. Castellano wants confirmation by 4. He's not coming himself?
Would you? Beds are all over Mercy Ridge. He's already across the border in Nogales, waiting to fly out once this is done. Lily's mind raced. Castellano wasn't at the airport. He was in Nogales, 3 hours south, waiting for confirmation that the evidence had been destroyed before making his final run. The well-dressed man left through the front entrance. The guard walked deeper into the archives, pulling out boxes. Lily stepped into the room. Don't move.
The guard spun, hand going to his hip, weapon or radio, Lily couldn't tell. She held up her hands. I'm not armed. I'm not here to hurt you. I just need you to stop what you're doing. Who the hell are you? Someone who knows that $50,000 isn't worth going to prison for destroying evidence in a federal investigation. The guard's hand stayed on his hip. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Vernon Castellano paid you to destroy hospital records, records that prove he's been running a drug trafficking operation for years. When federal agents arrive, and they're coming, you'll be charged as an accessory. Lily took a step forward. Or you can stop now. Tell them you were coerced. Testify against Castellano. Maybe you do a year or two instead of 20. Lady, you need to leave. Now. Can't do that. The guard pulled his weapon, not pointing it at her, just showing he had it. I said leave. Put that away before you make this worse. Lily's voice stayed calm. You're a security guard. You're not going to shoot an unarmed nurse. And if you do, you're looking at murder charges on top of everything else. How do you know I won't? Because I can see your hand shaking, because your safety's still on, because you're scared and way out of your depth. Lily lowered her hand slightly. Let me help you. Put the gun down. Walk away from this. The money isn't worth your life. The guard's resolve wavered. The weapon lowered slightly, then headlights swept through the front windows. Multiple vehicles, doors slamming. Federal agents, Foster's voice amplified. Exit the building with your hands visible. The guard looked at Lily. You set me up. No, I gave you a choice. You just ran out of time to make it. He dropped the weapon, raised his hands. I want a lawyer. Smart move. Federal agents poured through the front entrance. Foster led them, weapon drawn, scanning for threats. She saw Lily, and her expression cycled through relief, anger, and resignation in about 2 seconds. You couldn't wait 15 minutes? He was already destroying evidence. Foster looked at the guard, now being cuffed by other agents, looked at the boxes pulled from shelves. Did you touch anything? Just his conscience. That's not funny. But Foster's voice had lost its edge. She holstered her weapon. We got the courier. Pulled him over half a mile from here. He's already talking. Says Castellano's in Nogales waiting to fly to Cabo and then on to Belize. So go get him. We are. Mexican federal police are coordinating, but Nogales is complicated jurisdiction. Foster moved deeper into the archives. These the records Castellano wanted destroyed? Everything from 2019 forward, probably thousands of prescriptions. All the evidence you need to prove systematic fraud and distribution. Foster photographed the boxes, called over an evidence team, turned back to Lily. You should be in protective custody. I was protecting custody of evidence. You were conducting an unauthorized investigation and interfering with... Foster stopped, rubbed her face. Never mind. It doesn't matter. You were right. Again, which is becoming a very annoying pattern. I try. They processed the scene for another hour. The guard was transported to federal detention. The evidence was cataloged and secured. The courier gave a full statement implicating Castellano in conspiracy, evidence destruction, and multiple counts of federal drug trafficking. By the time they finished, dawn was breaking over Phoenix. Lily stood outside Highland Archives, watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and pink. Foster emerged from the building, phone in hand. Mexican authorities have Castellano in custody. They're holding him for extradition. He'll be back in U.S. jurisdiction by tomorrow. He'll have lawyers. But we have evidence. Witnesses. Financial records. Everything we need. Foster looked at Lily. This is going to be a massive case. Months of trials, media attention. You'll be at the center of all of it. I know. Is that what you want? Lily thought about the question, about the quiet life she'd tried to build, about being invisible and anonymous and safe. About how that life had cost Dr. Mitchell hers, about how silence protected people like Castellano while patients suffered and staff were too afraid to speak up. I want people to be safe, she said finally. If that means being visible, then that's what happens. Foster's phone rang. She answered, listened, her expression changing. When? Pause. How bad? Longer pause. We're on our way. She hung up, looked at Lily. Colonel Preston's awake. He's asking for you. They drove back to Mercy Ridge in Foster's SUV. The hospital looked different in morning light, less like a crime scene, more like a place where healing happened. The ICU was quiet. Colonel Preston lay in a bed surrounded by monitors and IV lines. His face was bruised, one arm in a cast, but his eyes were clear when Lily walked in. Major Marsh, his voice was rough but strong. They told me you went hunting. Someone had to. That someone should have been federal agents, not a civilian nurse. But there was no heat in the words. Did you get him? He's in custody, thanks to you drawing his attention. Preston smiled slightly. My car would disagree with your tactics, but I'll live, which is more than Castellano can say for his freedom. He shifted in the bed, winced. There's going to be recognition for this. Official channels, commendations, the works. I don't need... It's not about what you need. It's about what's right. Preston's voice strengthened. You exposed corruption, saved lives, brought down a criminal organization. You did what you were trained to do, even after you left the service. I'm just a nurse. You're a lot more than that, always have been. He gestured at the door. There are people outside who want to see you, been waiting all night. Lily stepped into the hallway and found it packed. Sandra and a dozen other nurses from the ER. The tactical officers from Sergeant Davis's team. Hospital administrators including Patricia Morrison. Military personnel in dress uniform. And at the front, Sergeant Davis himself. Walking with a cane, still recovering, but alive. He approached Lily and came to attention as much as his injuries allowed. Major Marsh, the team wanted to say thank you, properly. The tactical officers formed up behind him, saluted as one. Lily felt her throat tighten. I was just doing my job. So were we. But you did yours better. Davis held out a folded flag. American flag, the kind given at military funerals. Except this one wasn't for someone who'd died. This is from all of us. Everyone you've saved, everyone you've protected, military and civilian, everyone who's alive because you refuse to be quiet. She took the flag, felt the weight of it, the meaning. Sandra stepped forward. The nursing staff wanted me to tell you something. We took a vote, unanimous. If you want to come back to Mercy Ridge, you have a job. Trauma coordinator, setting protocols, training staff, making sure what happened with Reinhardt never happens again. Patricia Morrison moved beside Sandra. The board approved the position this morning with a significant pay increase and a formal apology for how you were treated. She looked uncomfortable. I was wrong. We were wrong. We should have listened from the beginning. Lily looked at the faces surrounding her. People who'd been afraid of her, people who'd underestimated her, people who now understood what she'd been trying to tell them all along. I need to think about it, she said quietly. Take your time. Patricia handed her a business card. Call me when you're ready. The crowd dispersed slowly. Sandra stayed behind. Thank you, Sandra said, for my daughter, for not staying quiet when I couldn't speak up. You pointed me toward the evidence. You were speaking up too. Not enough. Not soon enough. Sandra's eyes were red. Sarah Mitchell was my friend. I should have done something when she died. I should have questioned it. Instead, I buried my head and told myself it was safer. You're doing something now. That counts. Sandra hugged her, brief, tight, then walked away before either of them could get too emotional. Foster appeared at Lily's elbow. I need you to come downtown. We have testimony to take, official statements, everything on record. Now? The lawyers are already circling. We need your account documented before Castellano's defense team starts trying to poke holes in the investigation. Foster's expression softened. After that, you're free to go. Take some time. Decompress. Be a person instead of a witness. They spent the next 6 hours at the federal building. Lily walked investigators through everything, finding the discrepancies, the threats, the confrontation on the ledge, the chase to Highland Archives, every detail recorded and transcribed. By the time they finished, afternoon sun slanted through the conference room windows. Lily felt scraped hollow, exhausted in ways that had nothing to do with lack of sleep. Foster walked her to her car. This is going to take months to fully prosecute. Castellano, the other doctors, the administrators who knew and didn't act. You'll probably be called to testify multiple times. I know, but you broke it open. Without you, Castellano would still be running his operation. Mitchell's death would still be ruled a suicide, and dozens of patients would still be at risk. Foster extended her hand. Thank you, seriously. This was one of the biggest cases we've worked in years. Lily shook her hand, drove home through Phoenix traffic, let herself into her apartment that still had federal locks on the doors. She stood in the middle of her living room looking at the space that had been her refuge, her attempt at normalcy. It didn't feel like refuge anymore. It felt like a place between things, a way station. Her phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. Her heart jumped before she realized it wasn't a threat this time. Major Marsh, this is Lieutenant Carver. The team is having a gathering next Friday, memorial for fallen operators. We'd be honored if you'd attend. No speeches required, just acknowledgement of service. Let us know. Carver. Another text. This one from Sandra. Wine night tomorrow? My place. No hospital talk. Just bad reality TV and complaints about men. You need it. Another. From Patricia Morrison. I know you need time to decide, but I wanted you to know 18 nurses submitted letters supporting your return. They want you back. Think about it. Patricia Lilly sat on her couch, surrounded by messages from people who'd been strangers a week ago. People who now knew exactly who she was and wanted her in their lives anyway. She pulled out the challenge coin from her pocket, the flag Sergeant Davis had given her, the business cards from veterans organizations and federal agents and hospital administrators, evidence of a life she hadn't planned, recognition she hadn't wanted, a future that looked nothing like the quiet anonymity she'd been trying to build. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Major Marsh? A woman's voice. Young, uncertain. My name is Emily Mitchell. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell's sister. Lily's breath caught. I heard what you did. How you exposed the people who killed Sarah. I wanted to call and say... The voice broke. Thank you for not letting them get away with it, for making her death mean something. I'm so sorry for your loss. I am too. But I'm also grateful someone finally listened, finally cared enough to look past the official story. Emily paused. Sarah talked about you, actually. Not by name, but she mentioned a new nurse at Mercy Ridge, someone quiet, someone who'd been military. She said this person understood what it meant to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. She said that? In her last message to me, 3 days before she died. Emily's voice steadied. I think she knew she was in danger. I think she was looking for allies, people who wouldn't back down when things got scary. Lily closed her eyes, thought about Dr. Mitchell, trying to do the right thing, looking for support, finding none in time. She deserved better, Lily said quietly. She did, but because of you, at least she got justice. That's something. Emily took a breath. I'm starting medical school next year, following in her footsteps, and I'm going to remember what you taught me, that speaking up is dangerous, but staying silent is worse. They talked for another 10 minutes. Emily shared stories about her sister. Lily listened, letting the memory of someone she'd never met settle into the space where grief and purpose intersected. When they hung up, Lily sat in the darkening apartment, thinking about all the Dr. Mitchells in the world, all the people who tried to do right and got crushed by systems that protected the powerful, thinking about how she'd almost become one of them, almost stayed quiet, almost let Sergeant Davis die to avoid conflict, and thinking about what came next, about the choice between hiding and being seen, between safety and service. Her phone was still in her hand. She pulled up Patricia Morrison's number, typed a message. I'll take the position, but I have conditions, starting with mandatory training for all staff on recognizing and reporting workplace retaliation, and whistleblower protections for nurses who speak up about safety concerns. The response came within seconds. Done. When can you start? When can it seem mots can? Lily looked around her apartment, at the evidence of a life interrupted, at the space that had never quite felt like home because she'd been too busy hiding to actually live. Monday, she typed. But I want Bay 7. That's where this started. That's where I work. Agreed. Welcome back, Major. Lily set down her phone, stood up, walked to the window and looked out at Phoenix stretching into the desert evening. Somewhere in this city, patients needed advocates. Staff needed protection. Systems needed changing. And she was done pretending she could be invisible while that work went undone. The war hadn't followed her home. She'd carried it with her all along, the training, the experience, the inability to watch people suffer when she had the skills to help. She'd just been fighting on the wrong battlefield, but now she was exactly where she needed to be. Monday morning arrived with the kind of heat that made Phoenix shimmer like a mirage. Lily parked in her usual spot at Mercy Ridge, the lowest level of the garage where she'd hidden for 8 months, trying to be nobody. She wasn't hiding anymore. The walk through the hospital felt different. Staff nodded as she passed. A resident held the elevator door. 2 nurses from cardiology stopped their conversation to say good morning, not because she was famous now, but because they'd watched her refuse to back down when backing down would have been easier. Bay 7 looked the same as it always had. Equipment gleaming, monitors waiting, the space where Sergeant Davis had almost died, and everything had changed. Sandra was already there, checking supplies. Couldn't stay away, huh? Apparently not. Lily set down her bag. Thought you were on nights this week. Switched shifts. Figured you'd need someone watching your back on day one. Sandra handed her a tablet. Patient assignments? Nothing too crazy? Administration wants you easing back in. I don't need easing. I know, but let them think they're protecting you. Makes them feel better about how badly they screwed up before. The morning started quiet. A laceration. Possible concussion. Standard ER flow. Lily moved through cases with the rhythm she'd built over months, except now doctors actually listened when she spoke. Around 10 a.m., Patricia Morrison appeared with two other administrators and someone Lily didn't recognize. A man in his 60s, expensive suit, the kind of presence that said important without needing introduction. Nurse Marsh, Patricia began. This is Robert Chen. Dr. Hammond? Lily corrected quietly, noticing the name tag. The older man smiled slightly. My apologies, Dr. Nathan Hammond, chairman of the hospital board. He wanted to speak with you personally. They moved to a consultation room. Dr. Hammond sat across from Lily, studying her with eyes that had probably evaluated thousands of medical professionals over decades. I've been reviewing everything that happened, he said finally. The investigation, the arrests, the systematic failures that allowed corruption to flourish under our watch. He paused. We failed you. More importantly, we failed our patients. Yes, you did. He blinked at the directness. Patricia looked uncomfortable. I appreciate the honesty, Hammond continued, which is why I'm here to offer more than just an apology. The board has approved a comprehensive reform package, new reporting structures, independent ethics oversight, mandatory training on workplace retaliation, and a patient advocacy program that reports directly to the board, not through administration. Who's running this program? We were hoping you would. Lily had expected the job offer. She hadn't expected this. I'm a trauma nurse, not an administrator. You're someone who proved that speaking up matters, that hierarchies shouldn't protect the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. Hammond leaned forward. We need that perspective, not just in the ER, but throughout this entire institution. And if I say no, then we'll find someone else. But they won't have survived what you survived. They won't have the credibility you've earned. He slid a folder across the table. This is the formal proposal. Salary, authority, resources. Everything you'd need to actually make changes instead of just talking about them. Lily opened the folder. The numbers were substantial. The scope was comprehensive. The authority was real. I need time to think about it. Take whatever you need. The offer stands. Hammond stood. But I hope you'll say yes, because the best way to honor what you've been through is to ensure nobody else has to go through it. They left. Sandra poked her head in moments later. That looks serious. They want me to run patient advocacy for the entire hospital. Are you going to do it? I don't know. Lily closed the folder. I became a nurse to help people directly, not to push papers and attend meetings. You can do both, and honestly, Sandra sat down. The system needs people like you in positions of power. People who remember what it's like to be powerless. The conversation was interrupted by the ambulance radio. Mercy Ridge, we're inbound with Priority 1 trauma. Female, mid-20s, multi-vehicle accident, critical injuries, ETA 3 minutes. Bay 7 mobilized. Lily moved into position, muscle memory taking over. The familiar adrenaline. The focus that narrowed the world to blood pressure and oxygen saturation, and the space between heartbeats where life or death was decided. The patient arrived unconscious, intubated, bleeding from injuries Lily cataloged in seconds. The trauma team descended, including a new attending physician Lily had never worked with before. What do we have? The doctor asked. Lily gave the report. Clean, efficient, every detail that mattered. The doctor listened, nodded. What's your assessment? Internal bleeding, probably splenic rupture based on the impact pattern. Needs immediate surgical intervention. I agree. Get her to OR stat. Good catch on the spleen. The doctor met Lily's eyes. Thank you for the clinical insight. I appreciate working with nurses who actually know what they're doing. It was such a basic interaction, the kind that should have been normal 8 months ago. The kind that Dr. Reinhardt had turned into a power struggle every single time, but it felt like victory anyway. The morning continued. More patients, more cases where Lily's input was sought rather than dismissed, where her experience was treated as an asset rather than a threat. Around noon, Lieutenant Carver appeared in the ER entrance with 3 other tactical officers.
Major Marsh, we're heading out for a training exercise. Wanted to stop by first. Everything okay? More than okay. Sergeant Davis got cleared for light duty. He'll be back with the team in 3 months. Carver's expression was serious. We also wanted you to know Castellano's extradition went through. He's being arraigned tomorrow, federal courthouse. Thought you might want to be there. To watch him face charges?
To watch him realize he lost. Carver glanced at his team. We'll be there, in uniform, making sure the judge knows exactly what he did and who stopped him. They left. Lily finished her shift with the weight of tomorrow pressing against her chest. That evening, she sat in her apartment with the folder Hammond had given her, read through the proposal 3 times, thought about what accepting would mean. Her phone rang. Foster, just wanted to give you a heads up about tomorrow. Castellano's lawyers are going to argue for bail. We're opposing, but it's possible the judge grants it. He's a flight risk. We know, but he has resources, lawyers who specialize in making dangerous people look sympathetic. Foster paused. Your testimony could make the difference if you're willing to provide a victim impact statement. I wasn't his victim. You were targeted, threatened, forced to jump from a 3rd-story window to escape. That's victimization. Foster's voice softened. But I understand if you don't want to relive it in open court. Lily thought about Dr. Mitchell, about Colonel Preston, about every patient who'd been put at risk by Castellano's operation. I'll be there. The federal courthouse was packed the next morning. Media outside. Protesters. Supporters. The kind of circus that happened when powerful people fell publicly. Lily entered through a side door Foster had arranged, found herself in a witness waiting room with Sandra, Colonel Preston, still on crutches but determined, and a dozen other hospital staff who'd been affected by the corruption. Hell of a turnout, Preston observed. People want to see justice happen in real time. Sandra twisted her hands together. I'm terrified of testifying. You don't have to, Lily said. Foster told me it's voluntary. I know, but Sarah deserves someone speaking for her, and I'm the only one left who can. Sandra's voice shook. Even if it's scary. The courtroom was formal, imposing, designed to make people feel small. Lily sat in the gallery beside Preston while federal prosecutors outlined the charges. Drug trafficking, conspiracy, fraud, attempted murder. Then Castellano was brought in. He looked smaller than he had in the hospital, diminished. The expensive suit couldn't hide the fact that he was just a man who'd chosen greed over healing and was now facing consequences. His eyes scanned the courtroom and landed on Lily. For a moment, something flickered. Recognition, maybe rage. Then his lawyer whispered something, and he looked away. The bail hearing proceeded. Castellano's defense argued he was a respected physician, community ties, no prior criminal record, low flight risk. The prosecution countered with evidence, the plain to Belize, the destroyed records, the threats, the pattern of violence. Then Foster called Lily to provide her statement. She walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor was a woman in her 40s, sharp-eyed, no nonsense. Ms. Marsh, can you describe what happened on the evening of November 7th? Lily did, calmly, clearly. The locked room, the threats, the syringe filled with drugs meant to kill her, the window ledge, the fall through glass. The courtroom was silent when she finished. And why do you believe Dr. Castellano targeted you specifically? Because I exposed the beginning of his criminal operation, and because I refused to stay quiet when silence would have protected him. Do you believe he would flee if granted bail? I know he would. He already tried once. He's not afraid of breaking laws. He's only afraid of facing consequences. Castellano's lawyer stood. Objection. The witness is speculating. I'm testifying based on direct experience, Lily interrupted. He told me himself. He said Dr. Mitchell made a choice, that her life wasn't worth as much as his operation, that he'd protected millions of dollars by murdering her. Those were his words, not speculation. The judge looked at Castellano. Did you make those statements? Castellano's lawyer jumped in. My client declines to answer without... I'm not asking for testimony. I'm establishing credibility of this witness. The judge turned back to Lily. You heard Dr. Castellano admit to killing Dr. Sarah Mitchell? Yes, Your Honor. He believed I was about to die. He thought confession didn't matter because dead people can't testify. The judge made a note. Thank you, Ms. Marsh. You may step down. Sandra testified next, shaking but determined, talking about her friend, about the fear that had kept her silent, about the cost of that silence. Colonel Preston testified from his wheelchair about the car accident, about threats to military personnel, about the danger Castellano represented. When the testimony concluded, the judge didn't deliberate long. Bail is denied. The defendant has demonstrated clear flight risk, danger to witnesses, and a pattern of violence designed to obstruct justice. He will remain in federal custody pending trial. The gavel came down. Castellano's face went white. His lawyers immediately started arguing for appeal. But it was done. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. Lily pushed through without comment. Foster intercepted her near the parking garage. That was good testimony, clear, compelling, exactly what we needed. Will it stick, the charges? With the evidence we have? Yes. He's looking at 20 to life minimum. More if we can prove he ordered Mitchell's death. Foster extended her hand. This case broke because you wouldn't let it go. Remember that. Lily shook her hand. Drove back to Mercy Ridge for the afternoon shift. The ER felt different now. Lighter, somehow. Like pressure that had been building for years had finally released. Patricia Morrison found her during a quiet moment. The board met this morning. Before the hearing, she handed Lily a badge. New, with a different title. Welcome to your new position. Officially. Lily looked at the badge. Patient advocate and trauma coordinator, her name, her title. I didn't say yes yet. You didn't say no either. And after watching you testify this morning, the board unanimously agreed you're exactly what this hospital needs. Patricia's expression softened. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to keep doing what you've been doing, telling the truth when it's hard. And if I fail, then you fail. But at least you tried, which is more than most people can say. The afternoon shift passed. Lily worked Bay 7, training 2 new nurses on trauma protocols, sharing what she'd learned in combat zones and civilian hospitals, teaching them that hierarchy mattered less than accuracy, that speaking up was scary but necessary. As the sun set over Phoenix, she stood in the trauma bay where this had all started, where Sergeant Davis had almost died, where she'd made the choice to act instead of staying silent. Sandra appeared in the doorway. Shift's over. You coming to the debrief? What debrief? Nursing staff, conference room B. We're having a discussion about implementing the new reporting protocols. Figured the person who created them should probably be there. The conference room was full. 20 nurses, different units, different shifts, all of them there voluntarily. Lily stood at the front, looking at faces that represented every level of hospital hierarchy, from new graduates to veterans with 30 years of experience. I'm not good at speeches, she began. I'm better at stopping bleeding than inspiring people. But I've learned something over the past 2 weeks. Silence protects the wrong people. Speaking up is terrifying, and systems only change when someone refuses to let them stay broken. She paused, gathered her thoughts. Every single person in this room has seen something that didn't seem right. A doctor who was too rough with patients. A medication error that got covered up. A colleague who needed help but was too afraid to ask. We all see these things. The question is whether we have the courage to say something. But what if we're wrong? A young nurse asked. What if speaking up makes things worse? Then you're wrong, and you apologize, and you learn. Lily's voice carried the weight of experience. But staying silent when you're right? That's how people die. That's how corruption flourishes. That's how institutions rot from the inside. An older nurse raised her hand. What if administration retaliates? They can't. Not anymore. That's what these new protocols are for. Anonymous reporting, independent investigation, protection for whistleblowers. Lily gestured at the documents on the table. But more than that, we protect each other. We stand together. When one nurse speaks up, we all stand behind them. That's how this works. The meeting lasted an hour. Questions, concerns, stories about past incidents where people had stayed quiet because speaking up felt impossible. By the end, something had shifted, not fixed, not perfect, but moving in the right direction. Lily drove home as Phoenix lights flickered on across the valley. Her phone buzzed with messages from Foster, from Preston, from the tactical team, from nurses she'd trained, from Emily Mitchell, thanking her again for honoring her sister's memory. She sat in her apartment, looking at the collection of business cards and challenge coins and badges that represented a life she hadn't planned but was learning to inhabit. The quiet anonymity was gone. The invisible nurse didn't exist anymore. In her place was someone visible, someone who'd learned that being seen meant being vulnerable, but invisibility meant letting people suffer when you had the power to help. She thought about the choice she'd made in Bay 7, the decision to speak up when everyone else wanted her quiet. How that single moment had cascaded into investigations and arrests and institutional reform. One voice, one refusal to stay silent, one person deciding that doing the right thing mattered more than staying safe. The war she'd tried to leave behind hadn't followed her. It had taught her, trained her, given her skills that translated into civilian life in ways she'd never expected. She wasn't a soldier anymore, but she was still fighting, just on a different battlefield, with different weapons, against enemies who wore white coats instead of uniforms. And she was winning. Not because she was perfect, not because she always knew the right answer, but because she'd learned the most important lesson war had to teach. Some things are worth the risk. Some battles have to be fought. Some stands have to be taken, even when taking them means everything changes. Lily pulled up the photo of Sergeant Davis recovering, thought about the soldier who was alive because she'd refused to let protocol override common sense. Thought about Dr. Mitchell, who'd tried to fight alone and lost. About Sandra, who'd found her courage. About Foster and Preston and the tactical officers who'd stood beside her when standing alone would have been easier. Change didn't happen in isolation. Justice wasn't delivered by heroes. Progress required ordinary people making extraordinary choices when the moment demanded it. And moments always demanded it. Every day, every shift, every patient who needed someone to advocate when they couldn't advocate for themselves. That was the real battle. Not the dramatic confrontation with Castellano, not the federal investigation or the courtroom testimony, but the daily choice to see problems and address them, to speak when silence was safer, to act when inaction was easier. Lily looked at her new badge, patient advocate and trauma coordinator. The words represented responsibility she hadn't sought but wouldn't refuse, because someone had to do this work. Someone had to teach the next generation that hierarchy didn't equal correctness, that experience mattered, that nurses on the front lines often saw what doctors missed. Someone had to prove that being underestimated could become your greatest advantage, that the people in power overlooked were often the ones who changed everything. She'd been that person in Bay 7, and now she'd be that person for an entire hospital. Not because she wanted recognition, not because she needed validation, but because patients deserved advocates, because silence had consequences, because the invisible people doing unglamorous work were the ones who kept the whole system running, and somebody needed to make sure they had voices when voices mattered most. Phoenix stretched beyond her window. Millions of people, thousands of stories, lives intersecting in emergency rooms and operating theaters and hospital corridors where decisions meant everything. Lily Marsh had tried to be invisible among them, had tried to disappear into the background and just do her job without anyone noticing. But invisibility was a luxury people couldn't afford when others needed help, when systems needed changing, when justice required someone willing to stand up and be counted. She wasn't invisible anymore, and she'd learned to be okay with that. Because being seen meant she could help people see themselves, could show them that courage didn't require perfection, that standing up for what was right was terrifying and necessary and worth it every single time. The nurse nobody took seriously had become the voice nobody could ignore, and she was just getting started.